Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Woo-hoo.
Hello, welcome to Conversations with SOTU. I'm Adrienne Metcalf.
And I'm Josh Schwartzbeck.
And this week we are joined by local author Steve Schatz. Steve has written the Adima Chronicles. You can find more about that at stevewrites.com. And Steve has volunteered with a little bit of an arm twist to ask SOTU some questions, to interview them, because we feel you might have some questions that we haven't addressed. So with that, I want to say thank you to Steve.
My pleasure.
Are you ready to channel?
I always am ready to channel. You know that?
Here we go.
All right. Well, we're back. This is part 2 of interviews with SOTU.
With the SOTU.
With the SOTU. We will just continue where we left off with the last show. So, Stephen, would you like to continue?
Sure. Let's start with the simple one. You talk to Josh, through Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Do you talk with others?
Only through the channel. Now understand something. You might consider us, if you have read any of the old Seth material, you might consider us in a way an oversoul. We are not really, and had not been until this particular plan and this particular incarnation with this particular person to give this particular message, we have not really had traditional incarnation before. And in fact, we could best be described as the energy of growth. So we are, in a way, a very subtle and yet primal energy that exists within each and every one of you. Now, it is not us. We are activating in the dynamics of our basic energy, which is basically to encourage you all to be more, to grow and be more. We are, in fact, not your individual soul, but your individual soul is the one that is speaking with you. In the dynamics of oversoul, the reason that we have a perspective, as such a perspective, is that we have, what shall we say, been involved in every incarnation of earthly humanity. And so we know you very well in that sort of way. And, you know, again, it's a misnomer because that is talking within the dynamic of linear time, and linear time doesn't really exist, and that's a whole other kettle of fish,
Okay.
as they say. So you each have an individual soul that is directly and intimately connected with you and your growth. And then there is the dynamic of the oversoul, which is, what shall we say, pushing your humanity forward in a more general way, in a less specific sort of way. It is a dynamic, could be considered a reflection of the consensus reality of the dynamics of your thought. You know, we have to get through to speak to you in the ways that you allow us. And so, because so few of you actually listen to your own souls any longer, we present in this sort of way in order to remind you that you do have a soul. And it's time to start listening.
Okay. So this isn't like part of your day when you clock in. You aren't a guy sitting in the woo-woo land that then when the when Josh rings up, you pick up the phone.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
And every once in a while we grab him by the shoulder and shake him.
Good. And was it in one of your previous shows, you talked about a consciousness being, or a soul that had existed over time, over thousands of years. I'm trying to get a view of your view of us. Do we have a soul that sticks with us through life and
Yes.
many lives?
Yes.
And
Yes, because it is the soul that is your, we'll call it divine continuity.
okay,
You know, you are, when you pass over, you know, some of you have chosen to have quite traumatic lifetimes, you know. And so, but when you pass over, your soul is that piece of you that understands the biggest picture. And in fact, when you are non-physical, you and your soul are primarily one.
okay,
All right. It is only in the dynamics of incarnation and physical incarnation that you forget of that soul connection. You have a mental one. Many of you have a mental connection. You believe you have a soul. You know, you do, but an emotional connection, no. A lot of you are very disconnected in that sort of way. You know, you've replaced it with a dynamic of God. Oh, God will punish me if I do this. Or, you know, you use the dynamic of fear, of retribution. You know, the wrathful God will punish you if, in fact, you do something wrong. Well, that's not really the way it works.
okay. So it would be possible for me, specifically me, to connect with my soul and see what other beings me had been?
Well, it's a nice try, but it doesn't really work that way. You can certainly do past life regressions and remember, but excuse us. You must understand that you have chosen the challenges that you have chosen for this lifetime. Now, that does not mean that they will not resonate with past lifetimes, but in order for you to deal with the dynamic and change the dynamic, this is the lifetime that you need to focus on. How does it manifest now?
Got it.
And so in that sort of dynamic, no. Now, there is an increasing vibratory awareness on an interdimensional level that is going to, what shall we say, through a certain technique that is going to be developed in 70 years or so, 70 to 100 years or so, where one person is going to have a revelation like an Einstein revelation on the theory of relativity, but it's going to have to do with ESP, and it's going to have to do with psychic awareness, and this person is then going to be able to teach people because the vibration has already occurred. The vibration is already happening. The resonance is already being raised within you to give you this ability. You all have the ability to be psychic. And so
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, but in the dynamics of the upcoming reality, the difference is going to be you're not going to be able to lie.
Well, that'll be
Because,
interesting.
well, but again, you know, that's a dynamic of you can begin to live your life with integrity now and try to choose not to lie now. And it's an answer to the last question of the first episode. We would say to you that's one of the things that you could do to really begin to make a difference. Stop lying. Stop lying to yourselves and stop lying to others. You're going to find that your lives are a lot less complicated because you don't have to remember the lie. So primarily, if there's one thing that you can do is try to find the honest truth within yourself. And speak that honest truth, thought, word, and feeling. Now, You know what the most powerful word in your universe is?
No.
Whoops. You think you have to be perfect. You do not have to be perfect. You don't even really have to be good at it in the beginning, because mistakes lead to experience. Experience leads to wisdom. Wisdom leads to mastery. So go ahead. It's okay to screw up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're already forgiven. You're already forgiven. Now, if you just learn how to forgive yourselves.
When I can connect with my soul. Yes?
Yes,
And anyone can.
absolutely so. It's not that you cannot have a lifetime where your soul ignores you. Oh, you can, because you're just screwing things up left and right. You know, you're just avoiding everything. And yeah, certainly that's within the dynamics of the choice of a lifetime, certainly so. Yeah, you can, and you'll come back and you'll do it again, because there's no judgment there. Okay. You have all the time in the world, because in fact, there is no time.
So, if when I connect with my soul, what's it feel like?
It feels like magic and miracles, in fact, because when one connects with one's soul's path, right, all of a sudden one's life begins to work out and things begin to fall into place. If you are taking the opportunities that your soul is giving you, if you are making the choices, and even if you screw up and make a wrong choice, if you go oops and you make a different one, a more positive choice, a choice that comes more from healing of self and forgiveness of self and the others, but forgiveness of self. If you begin to come from that place, you will begin to create a whole different reality for yourself primarily, and that will reflect outwardly in your world. Again, the general dynamic is the soul's urge that is coming from the oversoul, from the collective, is to become more, is to be more, be more, be more, be more.
And
more caring, more compassionate, more understanding, more forgiving.
And the way to connect is to pay attention to that light, or that feeling inside. Is that right?
Feeling inside, but also the dynamic you must understand. If you're a reality projector, then everything that you're projecting has meaning. All right? What you need to begin to do, your soul is trying to speak to you every day, in every way. You have been listening to your soul, so you have been through, and you in particular, you have been through a great deal of healing, you have been through a great deal of, shedding of the dynamics of old toxicity and old beliefs and things like that. And so you are now moving into a place, so many of you now are moving into a place where it's not the failure and it's not the difficulties that you're having trouble with, it's the successes. Because so many of you know the negativity, you know how to screw up, but what happens when you start having the successes? So many of you who have been on the other side of that coin and the negative side of reality creation for so long, you have forgotten there can be a positive side to it as well. So the reflections of your reality, when you're going to work in the morning, we know you don't have a real job, but
I'm a writer. Come on now.
we speak in a general sort of way. When you go to work in the morning, pay attention to things. Pay attention to that message on the side of the bus that resonates with you. Pay attention to that show that twangs an emotion in your heart. Pay attention to those things that are seemingly important. Pay attention to those things that are seeming coincidences, because there are no coincidences. This is the language of your soul. People have often come to us and said, "Oh, I'm so sick and tired of life. Why am I always sick and tired? Well, because you keep reaffirming that dynamic. Fear is like that also. Fear will draw, if you understand the power of attraction, fear draws to you exactly what you're afraid of the most. So the first question in the dynamic of fear is something really threatened, or is it self-generated? And if you begin to make those separations, you begin to find places within yourself that are foundational, that are beliefs that are foundational that you can stand upon. Again, it's an incremental journey. Enlightenment is an incremental journey, but we would suggest to you that you're skiing downhill right now. Right? And
do you mean that in a good way or a bad way?
well, if you don't watch out, it'll be the giant slalom. Right now, you're kind of on the intermediate slope. A few years ago, before the change of the millennium, you were on the bunny slope. Next is double diamonds.
I see.
Right.
One of the things that I find challenging, and we'll just call it woo-woo stuff, is it seems is that the measure of it being real or right is using a measure from a different reality.
But
am I successful? Have I made a bunch of money? Well, that's one measure. Am I successful? Have I grown in consciousness? That's a different thing that has a different scale.
Right.
And often is harder to see.
Well, that's the only success we talk about. And in the dynamics of your reality, now understand, what if you came into a lifetime wishing to learn about the value of money? Would you give yourself wealth from your childhood?
Rarely will that work.
It won't work. It won't work. You won't appreciate money because it's a... But if you really wish to learn about wealth in a lifetime, you're going to be born a pauper. You're going to really wish... It's the same thing. We often use the love example. If you really wish to learn about love, are you going to give yourself loving parents? Probably not. Because then you're going to... That's your life lesson. That's the dynamic of movement forward. You know, you will spend a large portion of your childhood and your adulthood and your young adulthood and your adulthood, and hopefully you will find it somewhere in there, that dynamic of real love. You'll realize that the type of people that you're drawing to you are not giving you real love. They're just reinforcing the dynamic of negativity. And so that dynamic of negativity, that negative relationship will keep being reinforced until you finally say, I've had enough. I've had enough. I'm either going to give it up entirely, which is usually when the real person shows up. Oh, love is just not for me in this lifetime. Famous last words.
Right.
Again, because you're saying to yourself, you're saying to your reality, I'm going to change things. I'm not going to be willing to accept the dynamics of the old type relationship. This person, this possible partner is just going to lead me down that old path of negativity where I'm going to wind up feeling that old feeling of betrayal, of abandonment, of whatever it is. And you have to understand, it's personal for each of you.
Right. But to say I'm not going to play that game.
Right. To say that, then you're saying to your reality, I wish to make a change. All right. So you're kind of leaving a space rather than immediately filling it with that old dynamic of that old energy. All right. Well, that leaves a space. Well, universe will say, well, okay. Here's the old dream. Here's an old dream. Here's a real opportunity for a real relationship. Now you must examine yourself and find whether you are healed enough and whether you have the courage to accept that dynamic. That's the are you sure? You know, you're saying, I wish to change my reality, and your reality will say, oh, and you've given very ambiguous messages. If you've been through a whole series of relationships that have all led to the same emotional outcome, abandonment, betrayal, etc., etc., you've given ambiguous messages at the very least to your soul. So your soul, your reality has to ask you if you're sure. And it will ask you if you're sure by offering you real love and seeing if you take it or not. Now there's any number of ways that this can manifest, but this is, in a generalized sense, the way it plays out.
So again, that's something that each of us can do. To
Absolutely.
make a decision to change, and then when the "are you sure" comes up, recognize it as that.
Well, absolutely. Because so many of you, you know, in the past, you know, especially when you're younger, you'll say, well, some love is better than no love at all. Mm-hmm. Some love is better than no love at all, so
Yeah.
what the heck? Maybe one more time I'll try it, and maybe the outcome will be different.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Have we wiped
Very
out
nice.
Have we wiped out all your questions?
Not quite, but you're getting close.
All
You're
right,
getting
well, we've
very
only got a
close.
few minutes left.
Good.
So.
Good. You seem very. I have a final one, and I'll ask this one first to Phil.
All right. Well,
You seem very
we'll try not to-
American-centric.
Well, we come
in
through
your-
an American-centric body. We come through, you know, channeling is a dynamic. It's like playing the piano, or it's like, you know, you do a lot better with a a concert piano, a high-quality concert piano, than you will with a honky-tonk piano. And so, you know, this.
And I'm trying not to say something about the choice of piano right now.
Well, we didn't mean it that way,
Yes.
but if you wish to stir up controversy
Yeah.
in that sort of way, then we have no objection.
All right.
All right. But again, it's like, you know, we are very user-friendly. And by coming through a real human being and being able to take on some of the characteristics of this person, we can come through in a, what shall we say, more personable way than if we say, follow us or you're all going to die.
Yeah.
You know?
But are there not entities, but energies such as yourself that are coming through in other countries with other cultures?
Yes, there are, but there is also a lot of distraction being presented. So we would suggest you use your discernment, use your understanding. Now you must understand there are a lot of different voices coming through now because there's a lot of different types of people. And different people can hear different things. Only certain people will hear and understand what we are saying. You know, and that's just the way it is. You will resonate with one over another. And so there are many different voices because there are many different paths to enlightenment. So that's pretty airy-fairy.
Okay.
So give us the meat. Where's the beef?
I have two more.
All right.
One is, do you know how it'll all turn out?
Yes.
And is there good and is there evil?
Yes. But we prefer to think of it as dark shadow and light shadow. And in fact, both have positive and negative attached. Positives and negatives attached to them. In other words, both have truths and lies attached to them. In fact, if you understand the truth and the lies of the supposed good, and you understand the truths and the lies of the supposed evil, you rise above to a third position that knows the truth.
Nicely done.
We thank you. We are SOTU. And this is Conversations with SOTU, what shall we say? The interviews.
The interview.
The interviews.
Right. We maybe, if you enjoy this, send in the cards and letters, call the TV station, tell them you like it, and we'll present more of them. We have 2 weeks worth of shows here, so you have 2 weeks to respond. We love you all so very, very much. And so until the next time we close, sending you peace, sending you happiness, sending you joy. We do love you all.
Thank you for joining us for Conversations with SOTU. Especially thank you to Steve
My pleasure.
for putting himself out there to question SOTU. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd absolutely love to have feedback to the TV station or through our website, and we are absolutely interested in your questions for SOTU. So I guess that's it for today. Thank you. SteveWrites.com if you're interested in his very good writing. Thank you, Josh. Until the next time.
You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday